well, you talk about it that way.
Yeah, they have messages automatically.
It's not, we usually. Sure.
Yeah.
I go with this. I mean, never worked out.
To work, okay. I'll look at that. Because I tested it with mine and it was fine.
Okay. I think it was just something like that.
Yeah. I'll take it. Yeah.
Yes, I've given me an eagle eye, but.
Nope. Nope. Yeah.
Hey, Jim.
Okay, folks, we are streaming, so let's go ahead and get started.
I got it.
Let's go. Don't forget to turn off your gadgets. Anything for us goes to Mr. Curran. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Val,
Here.
Curran,
Here.
Freeling.
She's here.
Oh, I was gonna say, I thought I saw her. Harrison,
Here.
Hinkleman, Majerick,
Here.
Ott, Pitchford,
Here.
Ballraff, Werfel, Yarborough, Elliott.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have 11 present, oh, Freeling. Mr. Chair, you have 10 present, 2 absent.
Okay. Minutes from the 13th. Hadn't heard about any changes. Is there a motion to approve those? Moved by Volrath. Is there support? Supported by Pitchford. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Those minutes are approved. Requisition review.
Good morning. Does anybody have any questions about the requisition list? Thank you.
Thank you. You want to go into
Sure.
scheduled discussion? Caitlin, you're listed first, so.
Mr. Chair, as Caitlin's getting ready to present to the board, we've got a couple of slide decks that'll be presented. The first is going to be on the 911 millage. Caitlin will be walking you through what the millage is, its history, how it is used, how the funding is used, and then when this will be on an upcoming ballot. So.
All right, I think we're good to go. Thank you, Annette. Oh, clicker.
Did it work?
There we go. It was just delayed. Okay, so as Brian mentioned, our millage is up for renewal this year. So we're going to be again asking the voters to approve the 0.4495 mils, and this supports the 911 emergency dispatch services and system in Berrien County. So with our 911 plan and the way that the commissioners decided to fund 911 in our county, the voters first approved the 911 emergency dispatch millage of 0.20 mils in 1985. It was then increased in 1996 to 0.25 and then to 0.45 in 2012. And it has stayed there since then. So this millage provides our services for 911 throughout the county. So that includes both Berrien County Central Dispatch, the Public Safety Communication Center, and also the Niles City Police Department Dispatch, which services Niles City. And we act as each other's backup, as you're aware. So this is important so that way we can take in those 911 emergency calls. We can provide instruction, dispatch out field responders. In our county, we do police, fire, and EMS to get them to the right location of the emergency, regardless of how the call comes in. It's now both landlines, cellular devices, text messages are included in that. This is the way that we fund 911 in Berrien County. So as you can see, the millage is the blue. And so most of our funding comes from the millage. It's also then supplemented by the state 911 surcharge on devices and the local 911 surcharge on devices. And then other receipts such as when we receive grants, the FOIA, those sorts of things. So in the first year of the renewal of the millage in 2025, it's estimated to bring in approximately $4,628,800. This talks about how it will be affecting each resident, right, on their property. So how it's calculated on your property taxes with every $1,000 of taxable value multiplied by the millage rate. So in this case for the millage, it's 0.4495, and that's how much the property tax would be annually. So this gives an example. The estimated average taxable value of a residential home in our county is $110,000. So if the renewal was approved, then that would for an average homeowner be $49.45 annually. And then in order for anyone to calculate the annual cost of their millage renewal for their property, they would divide their taxable value by 1,000 and multiply it by the 0.4495. Thank you to Warren for all of that information. This is how it's going to look on the ballot on August 6th, 2024. So it's all the information that I just went through. And then any questions could be directed through the website or through contact through Brian. And then if he needs any additional information, he'll get with me to be able to answer those questions. And that is all included in this beautiful handout that Julie Corcoran from printing helped us put together to answer any citizen questions. What can I answer for any of you?
So Caitlin, to the board, can you tell them the plan to make this information available to the public? Where could they find it? How will we make it available?
Yeah, so we've got printing has they've already done some of this, right? The actual handouts, if you wanted to use those. This is also going to be available through social media and online, correct? So that way that information is available to pretty much anyone in a format that they want to receive it in. Did I answer your question?
Questions for Caitlin? Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sheriff?
Chuck, do you want me to?
Yeah.
Oh,
So we're getting that going, obviously very similar to the 9/1 millage. Our public safety millage is also up. It is renewal. It's not asking for an increase, but just gonna go over some
You're
of
the
the.
yellow one, right?
Yep.
There is a slight delay when pressing over.
So in a similar format to what Caitlin did with the 9/1, just giving a little bit of example of what the millage currently covers for the public safety millage. As some may recall, when it was first passed, it was the drug millage and then changed to public safety, over the time. So you have the first, what is the request? The 0.3496 mils is the same, and as it says in there, it is a renewal for the millage that's been in place before. It supports, public safety for residents of Berrien County, including areas of drug enforcement, education, treatment services. Part of what make it real clear, because we get asked this sometimes, so the county has a public safety millage, there's other law enforcement agencies that have that. So as we go through this program, you're gonna see that a lot of what's covered in the public safety millage are countywide services that are provided to other police. I'll give you an example as we go through, I guess day before, the bomb threat at the Starbucks. Our explosive canine was used. We assisted Lincoln Township with our bomb team being available if needed, and then obviously explosive canine. So those are things you're going to see as we go through this program that are vital countywide. Not every agency has the ability to have some of the services that are covered in this. So it does have in there $3,600,000 is the estimate. Again, thank you, Warren, for a lot of the figures that are in here. And obviously renewal request will be on the ballot Tuesday, August 6th. So just making sure people are aware of that fact. As many of you know, 6 years ago now, we incorporated our narcotics unit with the Michigan State Police under what's called SWET. So Southwest Enforcement Team is our drug unit that we work. We used to be in the same building, 2 separate units. We looked at that, we combined under the state police, lieutenant or supervision. We have 5 people assigned to SWET. And we, a couple of examples of what that is. You guys see in the monthly report all the time what SWET does. They're very active in enforcing, drug and a lot of times drug and gun violence goes along the way too. So different evidence is done. So here's an example of the a SWET recently in the Lincoln Township Police Department. So again, SWET does countywide. We also assist in some others because we know that when it comes to drug enforcement, there's no border when it comes to just Berrien County, and it goes across, some into Cass and Van Buren. So there's an arrest for possession with intent to deliver methamphetamines. We assisted Lincoln Township, which was involved in that one as well. The other one was down in Three Oaks. So just, we've got multiple cases like this just showing kind of throughout the county. We worked with the Niles Post, Three Oaks Police Department, search warrant was executed. You'll see some of the evidence that was taken, down at the bottom, it talks about 3 loaded pistols, 32 morphine pills. I won't read it all, but you'll see it there. But, when we were getting this together, Brian asked, when you look at some of those grams and that, when you get into fentanyl, the number of people that could kill, from an overdose. It varies because people's tolerance are different, just like alcohol. But when you look at some of those numbers, in the overdose, deaths that we have, fentanyl and meth are by far the highest percentage of overdose deaths in our county. Here's a breakdown. I know it's a little smaller, so I was actually doing a bit of calculation back there. So 33% is our sweat operations. But if you look at further down, like the drug lab, that's a big part of that contract goes through the prosecutor's office. But if you added that in, it'd be even more. Special teams, that's for the 4 main special teams. Our bomb team, hazmat, dive team, and our tactical response unit. So that covers, all the equipment and 8%, 0.8% of the salary. Canines, our canines, for our 3 canines are 1 explosive canine and 2 narcotics detection canines, and all the maintenance that goes along with it are also covered in the millage. You'll remember many years ago, our Marine unit used to come out of the general fund. That is now out of the millage. Again, that's a countywide service. We've got the 2 lake boats out in the Buffalo St. Joe. We've got a boat assigned to Paw Paw Lake. And then obviously a river boat that's available throughout the county for that. So we assist, a lot of other agencies when they need something with the Marine unit. So any questions on that? So again, thank you to Warren. I mean, I think it's always important for people to understand, 1, it's a renewal, but 2, what is it? What does a tax? It gets confusing. Warren said when you talk about equalized value and that. So we try to make this slide pretty easy for people. For every $1,000 of your taxable value, you multiply that rate, very similar to like you heard from the 911. We did put in the average cost for that. Our millage rate's a little different than 911's at the 0.3496. And then a way for you to calculate your own. So as long as you look at your tax bill correctly and use the taxable value, you'd actually be able to see what that costs. But for the average home in Berrien County, it would be a $38.50 annual cost for the renewal of the millage. We felt it was important to have the ballot language. Ours is very similar, obviously, what you saw from Caitlin's. Ours is just a different millage rate. So it's going to be just a little different than the 911 millage based on our millage rate's a little lower. And obviously, as you guys, as the commission approved, it's a 6-year millage, which I think is good to keep it on that rotation. And I know we've got Brian, and we discussed if he's got any, we'll work together on if there's questions or whatever for that. So any questions, comments? Okay.
Anyone?
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks.
So members of the board, just as a reminder, we're going to be putting this up onto the county's social media. We'll have it parked on the county's website. We'll make it available to members of the public, make it available to members of the media. But the biggest thing is we'll make it available to all of you. If any of you have questions, if you have residents asking you about this, you will have access to the information. We have it in the form of a slide deck. We have it in the form of a short booklet. We have infographics that are just limited to 1 page. We have even smaller items that could be easily posted onto social media. So if any of you want information and you want it to be available to the public, just say the word. We will get it into your hands, and it's something that your staff have been actively working on to make sure that it's readily available. I would offer just a big thank you. I'll start with Warren. He was extremely helpful in running numbers and just making sure that we had exact amounts for these slide decks. Moving on to Caitlin and to Sheriff, they were wonderful to work with. This is multiple meetings of getting these slides in order and doing final reviews of drafts. And then Julie in printing absolutely did a wonderful job. She took what we've done in the past and really did a nice job of improving the quality of what's being pushed out. So that is the team that's actively worked on getting this information ready for you all. With that said, if the board has any questions, please let me know.
Yes, ma'am.
Can we have some of these just put right here, maybe?
Yep, not a problem. We've got extras today and
We'll just right inside the door.
yep, not a problem.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Caitlin, and Sheriff Height. Brian, could you speak to, in the event this millage doesn't pass, what is the impact to the budget?
So in your slides, it talks about the financial effect of voting yes. But if you were to look at, oh, I really should have worn my glasses. But if you were to look at page 2 on the on the law enforcement, $3.6 million. That is the value of the millage question. If the question were to be defeated, we are instantly looking at a $3.6 million hole. And at that time, we would be engaged in a series of conversations between the board members, the sheriff's office, as to what level of service can we continue to provide without having this millage in place. To make it more simple, if this is defeated, we will be having to scale back some of the operations. To follow up, a similar question would have to be asked as it relates to 911. 911 does have some flexibility as far as it is a service that is mandated, it's a service that's required. So you do have some other ways to fund, but what we have been doing for many years now is going to be the voters making the case for why these are good investments. And it is our hope that the voters will agree that these are important services.
Brian, can I add something?
Yeah.
Thank you. So in the 911 plan that the commissioners approved, it states that if funding is needed, then we can actually go to each municipality that we serve and provide a rate that they would have to then pay for those services. So it has to be funded one way or the other. So the millage spreads that out. Otherwise, it is in our 911 plan, the mechanism to be able to provide that rate for funding. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
It is a less than ideal approach.
And just to add one thing, we looked at that, the figure Brian gave, the $3.6 million in the budget. There are things that by constitution, the sheriff is required to do. So when you look at the jail, answering calls for service where agencies don't have adequate police protection, those are outlined as required. So some of these would definitely be, affected because we would have to do exactly, what is mandated of the office of sheriff to do. And, the jail is something that you cannot, make cuts or not do. So.
Joe Quick.
For Brian, Caitlin, and Sheriff, could you speak to the wisdom of asking for a renewal rather than an increase this year and what that means to the public?
Yeah, so we've talked about this a little bit at the Public Safety Subcommittee. There is a crowded ballot. On this August election, it is a crowded ballot in the form of multiple local questions being asked, multiple questions about road millages, about other services to be provided. I think there is some hesitation to ask for more than what has been traditionally on the ballot and approved. I think that if we get through this, I think that the board would be wise to continue pondering what that millage looks like over the future. But for now, the Public Safety Committee met multiple times, had spirited discussions about the need versus the want, and ultimately they agreed that seeking the renewal made the most sense, just given the state of the local economy and given the potential for a crowded ballot. They said, if we're going to do this, let's ask for the renewal. The only change was moving it from a 4-year to a 6-year.
And the only thing I would add, exactly like Brian said, is obviously 2 years ago, there was a look, this millage, just to be clear, is the same as it was when it was originally enacted. There has been no increase. But with today's inflation rate and everything else, and what people are feeling in their renewal is what's requested.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for providing the information. Now countywide, there is one more millage on there. It's the senior citizens millage. If someone has a question about that millage, who do you recommend they contact to get more information on that?
Yeah, so tentatively, we've talked about doing a similar presentation just to explain the specifics of the millage. At the staff level, we've talked about getting that in front of you all as early as next week. It is a little different because you don't have a single point of contact. You have multiple senior centers. So from the county's perspective, I think that there is value in stating what is the question, what is the county's role, essentially acting as that fiduciary, and then just allowing for the senior sitters to answer the question at the local level about what services they're providing, what potential changes, and if it's defeated, what that then means at the local level. So that's something that we are working on getting in front of you all. Just, I would say that it's not going to be at this level of detail because when I got a question about public safety, I've got to ask one person, not multiple sheriffs.
Any other questions, comments? Yes, sir.
I just think it's important for us to communicate with our community leaders about these things and get it to them and let them know we've got 2 months of meetings coming up still. And everybody's asking what we're thinking and we need to let them know how important these are. In addition to their getting reelected, we need to get these things passed.
Mr. Chair, as a follow-up to that, tomorrow, the chamber is hosting, they do a monthly luncheon. Just about, I would say the bulk of the township supervisors are there. And I'll be taking these with me and making sure that the township supervisors have easy access to this information.
The ones that aren't there will be a sheriff's stall.
Could take some there as well.
Yeah, duly noted.
Anyone have anything else? Quick follow-up to the point about local units having to pay for emergency phone services if the millage is not approved. That would either be a general fund obligation to those local units, or there would be potentially, I think, a special assessment district that could be created. And the district would be the political boundary of that unit of government. I've never been a big fan of those. Sometimes you see those with fire assessments where they blanket the whole unit, even though there's vacant lots or vacant farmland and they're paying for fire protection for nothing. But aside from that philosophical difference, it would be an expense to the local unit, either through the county millage or through a locally generated tax or a general fund obligation, which presumably would have to be made up in some form or fashion. It's, like those old push button radios, you would push a button in, one would pop out. There's going to be a connection in terms of one funding source gone, another funding source has to be created. So it makes sense to do it this way because there's uniformity in terms of collection and control over the funds. But we'll see in about 6 weeks, I guess, 6 or 7 weeks. Anyone have anything else for the sheriff or for the 911 director? Okay, then we'll move on to public comments.
Melissa Clapper, St. Joseph Charter Township, probably going to do a little thing on Sharon here. just a reminder, absentee ballots come out by the end of this month, so if you're going to be pushing this information out, then, you know, you need to start doing it, you know, pretty, yeah, now, so. Because people do vote early, so anyway, that's it.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard?
I'm Sharon Tyler, the county clerk, Niles City resident. I love the brochures. My recommendation in changing this, you have the June date, you should put the election date on it, and I'm willing to put it on the 3 counters in my 3 different offices of the building as an information piece, but putting that June date will confuse my voters. They're always looking for information. I would recommend that recommendation to you.
Easily done. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, then we'll wrap up, break for committees and come back at 10:30.